Good evening. The Navy's new £3 billion aircraft carrier HMS Queen Elizabeth will arrive in Portsmouth much later than expected. No official date had been set, but it was thought she'd leave Scotland for sea trials in March and reach the south coast in May. But now it's thought she'll set sail for the first time in the summer, arriving in Portsmouth later this year. But the MOD says the ship is still on track to enter service with the fleet on time. Richard Jones has more details.
The consortium building HMS Queen Elizabeth have been very careful never to officially name a specific date, either for her to go to sea for the first time or to make her maiden arrival in her home port. But I'm told that across government, the MOD and the Royal Navy, May the 29th had been penciled in as a possible day for Queen Elizabeth to tie up here in Portsmouth for the first time. That date has now been scratched from their diaries. It won't happen. Navy watcher Mike Critchley says that with such a complex ship, a few extra weeks is not surprising.
We've got a ship, a complex weapon system, we've got an airfield on the roof, so it's a very, very complex system, and you expect delays with complex systems.
This is an aircraft carrier we're going to have for the next 25, 30 years. A few months is not going to make much difference. But it's a hugely complex warship and the crew are just settling in now. They're going to have to spend some time getting used to it. So I suspect there may be some slippage, but it's not going to make much difference to the long-term role of the aircraft carrier.
The official line came from the government in the House of Commons after questioning by a former defence minister.
What is the reasons for this, and what is going to be the operational service date for Queen Elizabeth? Minister.
Well, I would like to just confirm to the honourable gentleman that she will commence her sea trials this summer, and she will enter into the same programme so that she can sail into Portsmouth later this year.
No one said why the timescale has slipped. Much of it is likely to do with the technical side of building such a vast ship. But the Defence Secretary Michael Fallon, who visited Portsmouth last year to see preparations for her arrival, says she's still on track to enter service with the fleet by the end of the year. Richard Jones, ITV News.
In other news, the RMT union has announced it's hoping to meet with Southern Rail next week to try and end the bitter dispute over driver-only trains. The drivers' union ASLEF has now reached an agreement with the rail bosses, but the RMT union were not invited to those talks.
The public in the South East are a bit more sophisticated than people give them credit for. They do understand that it's a safety issue. They do want to keep a guard on the train. That manifests itself in support daily that my members get from their customers on the trains. And every time a survey is done by the radio stations and the TV stations, 70% of the travelling public blame the government and the train company, not the RMT.
A man has been arrested after a pedestrian was killed on the A325 near Farnham in Surrey. A 43-year-old woman died when a car and a motorbike collided at Alice Holt Forest, close to the junction with Binsted Road on Wednesday evening. A 54-year-old man from Liss has been arrested on suspicion of causing death by careless driving. He's been bailed until May. A woman in her 80s has been tied to a chair by burglars who then stole money and jewellery from her home in Christchurch. A man and a woman wearing scarves over their faces used cable ties to restrain the pensioner at her home on Oak Avenue on Wednesday night. The woman later managed to free herself and call police. Now, the charity Cancer Research is investing more than £8 million into research at Southampton General Hospital. A new multi-million-pound cancer immunology centre is currently being built next to the hospital, the first of its kind in the country. Martin Dowse has more details.
When you've run that half marathon or held that cake sale and you wanted to see where some of the money's gone, well, it's to places like this. Cancer Research UK's Southampton laboratories. If there are tens of thousands of individual battles going on out there in the war with cancer, then this is its Bletchley Park, where they hope to crack the chemical and genetic codes which will point the way to defeating it. The latest weapons being developed here are immunotherapy treatments, a way to program an individual's own immune system to target and destroy cancer cells.
We're given new information from understanding the genetics of cancer, and particularly of interest to the Southampton community, which has been doing worldwide leading research on the immunotherapy of cancer, how we co-opt the immune system to battle against cancer and use medicines to harness that. And indeed, that's very much the focus of the award that we've been given by CRUK to develop that over the next 5 years.
Cancer Research UK has just invested £8.2 million in the ongoing work here. That gives hope to people like Amanda Barnes. She's Deputy Director of Nursing at Southampton General and was also diagnosed with advanced ovarian cancer 5 years ago.
As a patient and a nurse, I've got a lot of admiration for the researchers and the scientists, the professors and the consultants that are doing that work. They've got such a passion and a drive to get that next step, to find out how we can combat the disease. Somebody like me, who's kind of quite a long way down the line, having cancer and having lots of different treatments, you just think, yeah, that's great, it's exciting and it gives you hope.
Cancer diagnoses are increasing. 1 in 2 of us will have the disease at some point in our lives. But the good news is that thanks to the work being done in laboratories like this, half of those diagnosed will now survive. And they hope that with new treatments that will increase by 2034 to 3 out of every 4. Martin Dowse, ITV News.
And finally tonight, despite thousands of crashes each year on the region's roads, you are now far more likely to survive than 20 years ago. That's thanks to crash testing and improvements in technology. So, will we one day be able to eliminate accidents altogether? Lauren Hall has been investigating.
2 cars about to crash at 40 miles per hour. The top one is a modern vehicle. The one below dates back 20 years.
This is the aftermath of the crash. Now, at first glance, both cars are in quite a state. If you look at the front, they're completely smashed up. But take a look at where the driver and passengers are sitting. That's where the difference is, and it's the difference between life and death.
Fortunately, these are just crash test dummies. But what if they had been real people? The footage shows just how serious it would have been for the driver and their passengers.
You can see just how bad, not just that one, but many cars were at the time now, and just how far we've gone in just 20 years. And that's the vehicle manufacturers and us working together.
20 years ago saw the introduction of the European New Car Assessment Programme, independently crash testing our cars for the first time. That year, 23,000 people travelling in cars were killed or seriously injured. The most recent annual figure shows it's fallen to 8,500. So you're now twice as likely to walk away from a crash than you were 2 decades ago. There are now calls for autonomous emergency braking to be fitted in all new cars. It uses sensors to warn of approaching hazards, automatically applying the brakes if the driver doesn't do so in time.
Even if they have this good technology which can brake and stop a car in an emergency situation, that doesn't mean that a driver can sit there and be distracted or be speeding at the time. They still to make sure that they play an important part in that safety process.
Car safety has already improved dramatically. Continued advances in technology are set to make our roads even safer. So in another 20 years, car crashes could almost be a thing of the past. Lauren Hall, ITV News.
Now, it's awful out there tonight, but I think things are going to improve. With all the details tonight, is Simon Parky.
From sleet to the slopes, driving through Europe. Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Good evening, and you'll be pleased to know after a fairly iffy spell of weather, things are looking a bit calmer for the rest of the night. And the good news is that the weekend isn't looking too bad either, apart from a bit of rain first thing tomorrow morning and a little bit tomorrow night. It's a largely dry story with some sunshine, but the key thing is it will be much less windy. That's the low pressure that brought today's stormy weather. That's cleared off. There's another bit of rain first thing tomorrow morning for some of us, and then a decent day for Saturday. More rain overnight into Sunday, and Sunday itself not looking too bad either. But back to tonight, we've got that Met Office weather warning in place until 1:45, but the rain clearing over the next hour or so, and the cloud behind breaking up quite nicely too. So with clear skies, actually getting quite cold in some rural spots. Watch out for a bit of ice on untreated surfaces. Winds certainly a lot calmer by the time we wake up tomorrow morning. If you're up early, there might be a bit of rain first thing, but that's going to clear away eastwards pretty quickly, and then the cloud behind will break up quite nicely too. So some decent spells of sunshine into Saturday afternoon. Temperatures no great shakes, probably peaking at around 7 or 8 degrees, but because it's much less windy, if you do happen to be outside, it shouldn't feel too bad.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
And that is all from us for tonight. We are back tomorrow with the weekend team, and any updates will be on our website. But for me, from all of us here on the Lake team, have a great weekend. Good night.